Hello and welcome to Scrap Mechanic. There's a YouTube channel named Con Gaming that I've been watching a lot recently, and one of his videos is a Noob vs. Pro challenge. He does this series a lot, where they built tow trucks to tow around these very small, non-functional vehicles in creative mode. And I thought, why have them not be functional? So, without further ado, here's the Smol hatchback, which is a hatchback car that is functional and very small. And as you can see, it has a functional hatchback. Oh yes, it has an XOR switch, so you can use either of these switches to open and close the rear of the vehicle. We also have a hood in which you can see that this baby is electric powered. There's also a timer in there, and that timer is for a very important function, which you can see there's sensors down here, and these sensors allow you to have automatic steering. Now, let's get in, close the door. Hold on a second. Yeah, see? Fine. No problems whatsoever. I recommend using the right door because of this issue. It even works from first person. Look at that. Beautiful. Here we go. As you can see, it works wonderfully with no issues whatsoever. You can't even flip it by rolling yourself. Actually, you can. I did a minute ago, and actually, the weird thing is that, like, just before starting this video, I was driving this briefly, and for some reason it was acting very strangely and not driving very well. However, right now it's working just fine, and I don't know what the difference is, because it's literally the exact same design. Oh yes, and of course, important features, we have the lights on 1, and the horn on 2. 3 opens the door. I thought 3 opened the doors. Oh, 3 does open the doors, but the doors decided to stay jammed shut at this time. 4 opens this door. This door opens and closes fine without issue because there isn't a switch on that side of the vehicle. 5 turns on the emergencies, but they're also automatic. If you turn in one direction, you will activate them automatically, which is pretty neat. And then you have the remote controls for the bonnet and boot. But that wasn't enough for me. Of course, the first thing to do was to give it monster truck tires, and of course, in order to do that, they needed to go out a bit, and I decided, you know, it needs some racing stripes. And so now we have the Smol Monster, because it's got monster truck features. Although, it is not huge still, because it's small. That's kind of the point. As you can see, drives quite well. The steering leaves a little to be desired, as well as the complete lack of suspension, but we're trying to make a very small vehicle here, not the best vehicle. And see, it can even climb rocks. I was genuinely actually surprised there. I thought it would get stuck. But is that enough? No, of course not. So we also have the Smol race car, which puts in a gas engine, hence the need for a grille on the front. There you go. You can see. Indeed, a gas engine. Extends the body a little bit. Still have actually more trunk space in this version, but we also now have higher power for racing. In fact, this has maximum power. At least I'm 99% sure it has maximum power. Actually, I think I had to turn down the power on the engine just a little bit because it was doing non-stop wheelies and was completely uncontrollable. And, you know, as much as a race car is meant to be driven by a professional driver, and of course, so you expect some skill from the driver, that was just a little too much. Also, it has a spoiler, which I really love. An important feature that I forgot to mention thus far is the fact that I'm using these I-beams for the angled pieces instead of the creative wedges that we do have access to, and the reason for that is I wanted to make these vehicles out of components that you can make in survival mode, so that you could replicate all of these vehicles in survival mode. The wiring is a little bit crazy, but it's totally worth it. I can go over it in more detail if you would like at a later time. But for right now, I'm going to show you what happens if you put the gas engine to maximum on the race car. The Smol race car. This isn't as bad. It wasn't as bad because we were on flat terrain, but as soon as I hit the tiniest bump, we were screwed. Alright, let's turn. Oh, and there's the massive wheeling, and it also does stoppies. Yeah. So, you know, just a little it's very easy to... Oh, okay, apparently it's very easy to jump over a rock. I thought it was going to beach itself. The front end is, I believe, still where more of the weight is, but I'm not quite sure on that, actually. Yeah, of course, sometimes you want to travel in style, and that's what the... Where the fuck did it go? And that's what the estate wagon is for. With seating for 3, 4 doors, and, of course, a gas engine, because, again, this thing is more powerful. Actually, it's because it's based off of the frame that was used for the race car, because that frame was extended a little bit, although it has the exact same hatchback as the original. I just kept the gas engine. It might not actually need it. I don't know. In any case, this one's gas-powered. The only downside to this one, also I did turn down the power just a little bit because, you know, it's a luxury vehicle, not a super fast, you know, horrible craziness kind of thing. And of course, these do share the same front end so far, and you can see we do have a quite usable first-person cockpit. I do prefer to have the driver's seat, you know, more usable. And of course, turning on the headlights, because that's an important thing to do, apparently. Now at this point, I was thinking to myself, is there a way to cram suspension into these designs? And... oh. Actually, this is the incomplete first attempt, and it does get the wheel to the ground, but the angle leaves something to be desired, and it kind of breaks away from the Smol aesthetic. But I didn't let that stop me, and here we have the Smol Hatchback S, which is S for suspension, because it has many suspension, exactly 4 suspension. And this allows it to drive a little bit better and get more power out of the vehicle. The only downside is that the bumper is low enough to the ground that sometimes you can catch it and it will just randomly turn when the bumper catches the ground. It's also very easy to bottom out the suspension, but the suspension is intentionally this soft because it allows for better performance. Besides, this isn't intended for off-road technically. Oh, yes! That was beautiful! I was not expecting that to go so well. Which reminds me, an important note I've been forgetting to mention thus far is that all of these vehicles share this slot under the front bumper, so they are all towable in the same manner as the original vehicle that these are inspired from. Of course, it's no good having all of these cars if you don't have a pickup as well, so here is the small pickup. And of course it has a functional tailgate, as one might need. It's also gas-powered because you need power! It's also rear-wheel drive only, if I remember correctly. A lot of these are all-wheel drive, but this one is rear-wheel drive. I don't think any are just front-wheel drive, although that was an intended feature earlier on in some of the designs. But yes, as you can see, we have quite a nice little truck. As you might have guessed at this point, I have a lot of "why stop there?" And so this might look familiar. It is just the small race car. However, you might have noticed that it was rolling a little bit on its own, and there's no, whatchamacallit, there's no grill on the front. In fact, if we open up the engine bay, rather, there's no engine at all in this thing. How can you possibly drive it then? Well, first, push the 1 button, and you can see that this is a rocket-powered race car, which makes it incredibly stable and easy to drive, at any speed, obviously. No, it doesn't. It's actually really difficult. It also has no brakes, or no, what's the other word I was looking for? You know, the wheels, they don't do anything except, you know, kind of steer you. And actually, it's not that hard to drive. It does wheelies. Oh, neat. And the left door, of course, always has its minor issues. There is one exception to that if we go back to the estate wagon. The estate wagon, because it has the doors directly situated next to each other, there's a little more slack in this particular position, and that allows the... It's never had an issue closing before. Of course, when you're going for small vehicles, why stop with the truly small, and why not build, you know, what is essentially designed to be somewhat like a big rig, but small? This is a cab-over design, so you can see that the entire cab tilts forward to give us access to the engine bay, which this one is an electric semi, so I guess it's a Tesla, but not really. I haven't put a system on the back for attaching a trailer because I wasn't really sure how to do that. I also made this late at night and I was tired. You can see this design features some metal in the back, and it also has a little bit of concrete hidden in there as well. And that's because the cab is heavy enough to where it will flip over on its face if you're not careful when you're activating the cab over portion of the design. I did modify that a little bit by slowing down how quickly the cab tilts forward or not, and that helps obviously. And as you can see, we do have seats, of course. And what is... oh, yes. 6 is one of the buttons, but not both of them. So it looked like it was activated even though it wasn't. And yes, now you can see, this isn't working properly. Hold on a second. This has a grill even though it is an electric engine. And, you know, this tote head here is of course used for part of the horn sound, or at least it's supposed to be. And, you know, you gotta hop up a little bit to get onto your vehicle, which is of course proper design. And, oops, other than running into a rock like a complete moron, this is actually quite a stable design, as I tailspin repeatedly, absolutely demonstrating the exact opposite of what I intended to. That's interesting. You see, this is the exact same wheelbase as the original hatchback, and when I was testing it earlier, it was completely functional, with no issues whatsoever. But now that I'm testing it on video, of course, it's like, yo, what? And I do have to demonstrate, of course, that while this does have a completely different cab design, it is still quite usable from the first person, including for backing up, if you wanted to. But why would you ever go backwards in life? I know I have. That's a depressing thought. And don't ask me about this particular design.